Okay, so let's move on to our next speaker, and then I think we'll have a short break. So I would like to welcome Irene, Esther, Mutuzo, Sevume. Irene, it's lovely to have you with us.
Such a pleasure.
Lovely. Yeah, I can see your screen. So what I would suggest is if we can make that full screen, that would be great. I will do a little introduction to who you are and your background. So Irene is the head of business growth and PR at Diwala. Through leveraging SSI standards and blockchain technology, Diwala provides a digital platform that enables secure and efficient issuance and verification of credentials for individuals and businesses. With a passion towards digital inclusion and literacy, particularly around the value of self-sovereign identity standards and blockchain technology, Irene has spoken on various panels and conducted webinars deciphering how SSI standards and blockchain technology can be implemented in the credentialing space in Africa. It is an honor to have you with us today. And yes, I'm really excited to sort of hear what you've got to say specifically in the digital identity space as well.
Thank you so much, and it's such a pleasure to be here. And I'm actually going to build on from what Lorna just presented. So what we do as Diwala is that we are actually leveraging SSI standards to give value to a person or business digital identity. When someone talks about identity, what comes to your mind? On my case, my identity is who I am, what I have done, what I can do. Information, for example, about where I've studied, the experience I've had, my financial history, and so forth. Ideally, because this information pertains to me, it should be easily accessible to me. It should also be controlled by me. And when it comes to verification, when I share proof of this information about myself, I expect that it is easily verifiable. But that's not always the case. In 2019, I completed my master's degree, and by the time COVID hit in 2020, I was still waiting to receive my certificate and couldn't apply for some jobs. When everything closed, I am not the only one facing a challenge. I am not the only one facing a challenge. Over 1.8 billion people worldwide lack a digital identity that can prove who they are, what they have done, and what they can do. And this in itself, like myself, hinders us from opportunities we'd otherwise have got if we could only prove that information about ourselves. When it comes to verification, entities are spending over 3 to 6 months and over $15 per verification, which is a lot of money and time, and that shouldn't be the case. Worse still, information about myself is stuck in silos. It is centralized and controlled and accessed by just a few organizations and parties that issue it. This centralization in itself is what makes issuance, access, and verification of information, my information about my identity, much slower and more costly. This is where we come in as Diwala. At Diwala, we are leveraging blockchain technology and self-sovereign identity standards to, one, provide a platform that enables any institution to issue safe digital credentials, credentials that make up yours and I's identity. Then in addition, people like yourself and I, business owners that are on this conference today, we can be able to access these credentials much faster in a more secure way, whether or not we have smartphones. And when it comes to verification, as opposed to verifiers having to directly contact the issuing bodies, they can easily verify this information by a click online in seconds. What is the value that we are giving to business owners? What is the value that we are giving to individuals like you and I? Now, I don't know about the people in this conference, but I personally have a special file. And this file has my certificates, it has my transcript, it has all this important information about myself. And I keep it in a special locker because I think that that's the safest place. But if you think about it, that's not really a safe place. Because what happens if my house gets burnt? What happens if, God forbid, I'm displaced because of a war? I'll end up losing all this valuable proof about me. And when I move on into another country, I have to start all over, a new fresh life with a new identity, because I can't previously prove who I am. And what we as Dual are saying is that this special file with this proof, these credentials about my identity can be stored safely online in a way that I can easily access my credentials, whether I have them in physical hard copy, whether I'm in another country and I've left the original documents at home, I can access them with any device as long as I have an account. In this case, we call it a digital wallet. So we provide a digital wallet that enables individuals like you and I to create our digital identities, where we can receive information and credentials about ourselves, where we can easily access this information and easily share it for verification. What is the technology that we're using and why are we using it? So we apply what we call self-sovereign identity standards. And in our application, SSI functions are used to create a tamper-free digital identity based on blockchain technology. Let me break it down a little bit. When you use self-sovereign identity to log in for any service, you have control over the data you input. You have control over your identity, and you can choose who sees your information using your digital wallet, who has access to it, and you basically do not have to rely on a service provider or a third party. When it comes to data privacy, you also don't have to worry about your data being used for what it is not meant to be used. And gone are the days where you'll have to worry about putting your name, putting your marital status online because you worry about where that data is going. In SSI, information is managed in a decentralized way. And what this has done is that it has moved identity and credential management from centralized identity systems that are stuck in silos, controlled by just a few, and is giving power and control back to us. It's giving power and control back to businesses to have control over their information, to be able to easily access it and be able to easily showcase it for verification. Again, let me use an easy example to explain how this works. So currently I have an identity card. Now that identity card is based on a centralized database. When I go to a bank teller and they want to use that identity card to verify me, the bank teller will only be able to verify me if they have access to the institution that issued to me my identity card. In worst cases, they'll use the face value to find the security features. But if you think about it, is that really safe? Especially in this day and age where almost anything can be replicated. But with SSI, if this identity card of mine was based on SSI, all I would need to do is I would first of all have the capability of easily accessing this identity card in both a digital and hard copy form. I wouldn't have to worry about losing this identity card and spending months trying to replace it. And when it comes to verification, by a click or through scanning a QR code, someone is able to verify that information. Even you, the person on this call, who may not have access to the database of the identity card provider, you can be able to access and verify me, information about myself. That is what SSI is doing. And in doing that, with the example I've just explained, you can see the amount of time, the amount of resources, the amount of money that has been greatly cut through the process of credentialing being much faster, as opposed to the slow manual processes than we know. Then because information is stored in a decentralized way, it also becomes very difficult for someone to tamper with my identity card. It becomes difficult for someone to hack information about myself, therefore giving me more privacy over my data, enabling data security while also enabling data portability where I can move with my data anywhere in the world. What is the vision of SSI? At the end of the day, we believe that you do not have to create a new digital identity each and every single time you go to another country or each and every single time you use a new service on the internet. You can have one digital identity that reflects who you are, can be verified, and you can be able to use it anywhere regardless of boundaries. As Diwala, we have tested this out, and we have also been fortunate to have over 58 institutions spanning across 9 African countries that have actually used the platform and our clients. And this showcases that there are people in the market that, yes, what we have is different. Sometimes we are called crazy, but there are people who believe in what we are providing because it showcases value. It's showcasing that credentialing can be much faster, more secure, and much easier. On my screen is a credential that has been issued through our platform, and this credential is a training credential. And what makes this different is kindly focus on the lower bit of the credential. I'll be speaking a bit about why it's designed the way it's designed. Now, on the lower bit, there's a QR code and link. Now, in a lot of African settings, to verify information about training, you'll often take 3 to 6 months or even more, depending on the institution you have to get this information from. But with the Diwala platform, when this certificate is issued to the recipient, all a verifier needs to do, one, if this certificate has been printed and is in a hard copy, they simply scan the QR code on the certificate, and then they're able to verify the information in the certificate. If this certificate is also shared in a digital form, as you can see, it's loading on my screen, you can be able to verify it by simply clicking on the verification button. And instantly, within seconds, this information is verified, as opposed to me having to call the issuing institution or having to wait for so long. I can readily get this information straight from the institution independently in a more secure and much faster manner. We understand that we are building for the African market, and we understand the challenges in the African market. And one of the biggest hindrances of the adoption of digital technologies is that not everyone has a smartphone. But we are building to create an identity for each and every one, not just the tech literate person, but even someone who may not understand tech a lot, who may not have access to a smartphone, because at the end of the day, they too need to get financial, they need to get finances at one point. They need to get that job. They need to get that healthcare that they require. And if we don't give them the power to have their digital identity, they will not get these opportunities. What are the key learnings? And this is what I'm going to conclude. In our key learnings, we have learned that as we build, it is important to be informed by the market. And when I say be informed by the market, not just the needs or the gaps that are there to be bridged in the market, but most importantly, down to behavior, down to culture. If you looked at the certificate that I earlier showcased, it has handwritten signatures. Now, one would ask, why is there the need for handwritten signatures? I mean, it's a digital credential that can be verified digitally. Well, the reason we put those handwritten signature features there is because we have come to understand that in the culture of the African market, people trust the handwritten signature aspect. It is a big element of trust and therefore a big element of adoption over technology. And that in itself clearly shows that culture and behavior are not only needs or gaps drive the adoption of digital technologies. Then there's still a huge gap when it comes to digital literacy. Today, when you talk about blockchain technology, you find that a lot of people are not aware of the fact that it can be applied to so many other use cases apart from crypto. So we have had to get into the market and speak to those people and showcase to them what blockchain technology can offer, and tell them, you know what, blockchain technology doesn't always mean that you can be scammed, but there's actually a big value it provides. And we have also learned that in certain spaces, you need not to even mention the technology. All people want to see is, I have a pain point. What is that pain point, and how is this technology you are bringing solving the pain point I have? The moment people understand that basic level, they may not even need to know the technology behind it. So that's why I bring this up, is that as we introduce technologies for social good, we are meant to help each and everyone. We need to be aware of the levels of digital literacy and be deliberate in the way we communicate the value of the technologies we introduce. We also need to be aware of the infrastructure in place. A lot of digital systems are built with the assumption that certain infrastructure is in place, or that there is money to afford that infrastructure, but it's not always the case. If we are looking to build technology that is inclusive, we need to be aware, for example, that not everyone has a smartphone. We need to be aware that even those that have smartphones, they're probably low on memory. So if I'm building an app, I need to build it in a way that it may not take so much space. Then lastly, and this is something we continue to crack our heads against, the issue of internet penetration. Internet penetration is still a big issue, and it's still a big hindrance to adoption of technologies that we're talking about. So even in our product, how we build our product, are there options that enable someone who doesn't have access to the internet to still get value from the product? At Diwala, there is a reason why we have enabled people to also download their credentials, so that in case they cannot access internet, they still have proof in form of, say, a paper that they can still use. Yes, we are moving digital, but we have to start from somewhere. We have to understand the challenges. And lastly, as actors in the space, we need to be open-minded. We need to be resilient. Creating change is something that's never easy. But if you are creating change and you believe in that change and you see that there are clear pain points, no matter how many times you fall down, I encourage you to get up, because at the end of that day, just one day, it will take just one person to understand your solution that will open up many doors for you. We are an agile and a hungry team from across the world. And funny thing is that when we hire all these people have had a story of where they have either failed to get a credential or have experienced a lot of issues when it comes to verification. So we're actually bringing minds together to solve an issue that is a global issue. And we invite you to join us. Thank you so much.
Irene, thank you so much. It was so passionate and so comprehensive. I had several notes and questions which you addressed as we were going on, and I have to say, I agree with so many comments that you've made, and a couple in particular. Blockchain is really fascinating, because I feel as though for several years it's kind of been overhyped and overused, but not explained. It's kind of been used as an entity of, oh, we have blockchain. And then there's that gap of the understanding of what it actually does. So
True.
Yes, when it's great when it's used well, but it's used for the wrong gain. And I think your example about, you don't have to play on the fact that you have blockchain as much as the importance of the service that you're delivering. That is absolutely key. And another comment that you made, which I thought was really interesting, is in terms of what you were saying about sort of internet issues and delivery, because ultimately, if you think about technology and how it's thriving and at the rate it's developing, unfortunately, some states and some countries don't have the infrastructure to keep in line and in sync with that. And that's where Absolutely, and I think that lets down a lot of potential that services such as what you are offering could actually do. So, for example, the fact that you're even thinking about an offline model just goes to show, hey, look, I'm not going to wait for you guys to fix the internet. We have to fix the problem first, because there is a demand and a need in order to address that. So I think that's fascinating and very inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I do hope that you will stick around for the Q&A. I have more questions and more comments, and I'm sure others will as well. Just to add, we've shared in the chat box below, if you just scroll up a little bit, the social links for Diwala. So we have your LinkedIn and your website. And if it's okay with you, Irene, we've also said your LinkedIn, which I will be connecting with you very soon.
Absolutely.
And I would invite all of our guests here today to please follow and engage with all the speakers and with each other as well, in order to be able to continue this journey and the learnings beyond today's session. So I think we will have a very short break, if that's okay. I'm just going to check with Katerina to make sure that's okay. I think